You are now new parents. Now, you'll have spent the last few months thinking about, and as far as possible, preparing for the arrival of your new baby. And here she is. You may be feeling quite unsure as to quite what you've let yourselves in for. If you've never had a child before, it's the beginning of an unknown and exciting way of life. In this programme, we'll explore the ways of being receptive and adaptable to your baby's growing needs. As a parent, you are now learning not only about your baby's physical needs, but also parenting skills to cater for her psychological and emotional needs. This new role may feel very strange and disorientating, but it will not always be quite so new. Gradually, you'll become accustomed to each other. You may begin to imagine that she's always been part of the family, and it may be hard to remember a time before she came. But there will be ups and downs as you learn about your baby and find ways of being a parent which suit you. Your baby is lots of fun. It's lovely to watch her grow and to see her own unique character emerging as she finds out about herself and her new world. In front of your eyes, she will develop new skills and gradually become more aware of you. And this can be a very exciting time for you both.
When you think about love, loving somebody is usually something to do with knowing them, liking what you know, wanting to know more, feeling they like you, all those things. And that happens very much more gradually in a relationship with a new person. Very often, I think the final feeling of communication, of real personal connection with a baby, waits on the magical response of baby's early smiles. Smiles really are, for many people anyway, they certainly were for me, the real kind of ultimate reward for all those nights of being kept awake and all those days of fussing. Suddenly, that face that's looking into your eyes kind of blooms into a sort of sunrise gummy grin. And wow, that's what it's all about. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Your face is amazing to him with all its patterns and light and dark contrasts. In the first month, you may notice that he starts to stare at your face when you're talking to him and makes eye contact. Don't be surprised if you also get the odd smile of appreciation in return. Babies are able to copy you in other ways than smiling too. You can try putting out your tongue and moving it from side to side. He will soon try putting out his own tongue in imitation.
Look at him. That's better. There we go.
In the second month, he'll start to hold up his head for a while when he's lying on his stomach. But he still can't hold his head up when he's sitting. You may be able to hold objects in his hand, but probably won't know they're there. His first communication with you is likely to be in the form of cooing. If you coo back, it can be the beginning of conversation. He'll be able to follow objects around with his eyes now and see large objects several feet away. He's definitely able to smile at you now. There's no mistaking that. By the third month, she can push herself up with her arms, put her hands together, and make noises back at you when you talk to her. She'll also be reaching forward for things like hair and glasses. By around 5 to 6 months, most babies sit well by themselves. If you lean your baby forward, she might find it easier still. She'll move her feet when pulled up to stand and do other amazing feats. It may sound like she's saying words like dada. She can reach and grab and enjoys a good game of peekaboo, being able to lean forward at last without toppling over. Now it's time to start making your house baby-proof, as she will be getting ready for crawling and will soon be fairly mobile. Although a few babies walk earlier, many start standing and cruising around furniture at around 12 months. Many don't do this until later. By around 12 months, she may have 1 or 2 words of her own. Towards the end of this period, she may actually be starting to walk. At the end of a year, it may be difficult to imagine that this laughing, cheeky toddler was a helpless little baby only 12 months ago.
I wish we didn't regard milestones as if they were winning posts. I do think people's lives would be a lot more comfortable if we could realise that this isn't a race. And there aren't any prizes in any of these areas for the babies who get there first. I mean, take something like speech. Some babies will start producing recognisable first words at 9, 10 months, well before a year. Many babies won't. Now, it's no good my sitting here saying it doesn't matter either way, because a baby who is not producing words by certainly 20, 24 months, one would want, of course, to be sure that the baby's hearing was normal, that there wasn't any kind of problem. But between those vastly different ages, we're talking a scatter round the norm. And I think what I'm trying to get at is this assumption that the baby who talks fast first will have the most interesting things to say later. That the baby who's got 10 words before he's a year old will be making speeches in the House of Commons when he's 25. There isn't any connection between the timing of these very early quotes abilities and later development.
She's gradually loved to, her bath, and she loves having her bath with her daddy, and she likes listening to music. If you dance, she'll actually start kicking her legs and moving her arms and sort of dancing along as well in her chair. So she loves doing that.
Playing with him is fun. It's still very early stages, so it's limited to lots of blowing kisses and making noises and wiggling things at him. It's really the first interchange with him is the beginning of a real relationship.
You will find you are constantly playing with your baby. Play is what babies and children do. It's the way that they explore and come to understand the world around them, the way they learn about their own bodies, and also the way they learn about other people and how to relate to them.
Play used to be described as a baby's work. Play is what babies and children do all over the world, all the time, and it is the way they explore the world, come to understand the world, explore the use of their own bodies, learn how to cope with their own bodies, explore other people. The feeling we most want to give babies and young children is the feeling of, I do this, something happens, I did it, I caused it, I have some power over my environment, some influence on my environment and on other people. Which is why where communication comes in, of course. I speak to somebody, they answer. I cry, somebody comes. In the same way, play is finding out what happens if I. What will this object do if I?
Once she started to respond to play, that's really where I could start to develop a relationship with her, much more so than before. And I suppose with Caroline, having the baby on the breast, the relationship and the bonding possibly even starts a lot earlier. And for me, I really felt it, when one got the first smile and when you got the first kind of a hand wave at you and you could wave back, and then a wave or a kick came back to you. And then it carries on from there, you just develop it from there.
Play doesn't only contribute to learning, really play is learning. And playing with a child is feeding in to something that child will be doing all the time anyway. You're facilitating play, you're expanding it, you're lending the baby your muscles so that it can suddenly do all kinds of things it isn't yet ready to do. And in the same way, when you play with a baby, you lend her your brain, your intelligence, your experience, your ability to do things with your hand. So there's a real kind of sharing that goes on, which is partly, I think, why most parents, anyway, are surprised to find how much they enjoy playing games that are basically, in adult terms, rather boring. I mean, two adults wouldn't sit and solemnly pass bricks backwards and forwards one to the other, but do it with a baby, and you get totally engrossed in the interchange, which is what that game's about.